Sorry the lighting's a little blown out today. I'm really sorry about that. But I wanted to do another Tales from IT basically to set the record for some people that might be interested in going into IT or getting a job in the IT profession. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I speak from experience. And I'm sure this is what I'm going to title this video, so I'm just going to say it right now. The stories that I've said in Tales from IT will not get you an IT job. How do I know this? Because I've said these stories to many prospective employers, and I never heard back from any of them. Now, you would think that with all the experience that I've had over the past 20 or so years, that employers would be more than excited to work with me. Oh, wow, he's got all this experience. Wow, he's got these stories. And you might be thinking, I'll use these stories. I'll take these stories that Maniac has told over the years and I'll tell him that they're my stories. And I memorize those stories so that when somebody asks me about this or somebody asks me about that, I'll tell them this story or I'll tell them that story. And I'll get that job. You won't. Why do I know this? Because I've used these stories already. There's no story that I've listed on any of these videos that I haven't already told to prospective employers that have not hired me. In fact, I'll tell you guys a story about that exact thing. Just how weird HR seems to be. Now, I don't take this as a personal failure on my part. I take this as just sheer HR incompetence, clearly. Probably with a couple of other factors that I'll get into after I tell this one story. But I just want to present this as a warning. If you're interested in stealing these stories or if you're looking up these stories to tell so that you can use them for your own career advancement, I'll tell you this right now, don't bother. They don't work. So here's a story that this is just an example of one of, I'm sure I have dozens, but I'll just tell you an example of it. My parents, bless them, have no idea what I do. Well, they know what I do, but they don't have any technical aptitude whatsoever. Like, they can't even operate modern televisions. They're so incompetent with that stuff. So but nothing is ever good enough. Nothing in my life is ever good enough for them. So they see something in the newspaper, because of course they're Luddites. They read newspapers. And it's like, oh, we're hiring for, tech jobs. And they think, my son can do that. He's a tech guy. When they don't look at what's in the job description, they just see tech and just blur out the rest of it because their brains just don't know what's on the page. And then I get hassled for days. Why aren't you going in for this job interview? Why aren't you going in for this job interview? And I can read the job, and I can tell in like 3 seconds, I'm not qualified for this position. And if I can explain it to the non-technical people in this room who may have children that are technical, to assume that you know what's in a job description, like that's in the technical field specifically, if you have no technical aptitude whatsoever, is like telling somebody, whether it's a son, a cousin, a nephew, a niece, whatever, that you can go to Huntsville, Alabama and build rockets because they have experience sweeping the floors over at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And General Zod goes off like, greetings, Planet Houston. Sorry, just one little joke. This is a more serious story, but I knew I had to throw in a joke there for levity because this is not a good story. This is sad. This is tragic. And so I then have to waste my time and deal with all the hurt feelings of a family that has no comprehension of what they're talking about or what I'm saying. Like, why is my son so useless? I got him a job that he can do, that I know he can do, and he can't do this job, You think he can because you don't know any better, but trust me, it's, again, it's like asking, this is not a job that's in his racket house or her racket house. And you'd know that if you knew what you were reading, but you don't. And so here's just one example of what I consider to be a complete waste of my time. My mother thought it would be a good idea for me to go in for a cell phone job. Basically, she's like, "You've worked with cell phones for you fixed my cell phone constantly. You should get a job working for AT&T or working for Verizon. You should sell cell phones. Like all of a sudden I can sell cell phones all of a sudden. You know all the cell phones that are coming out. That's true. You can fix all of them. That's also true. You can get people to buy cell phones. That's not true. Trust me, nobody would buy a thing from me unless they had to. Trust me, that's why I deal with repairs. People come to me when they have no choice. It's broken, I can't even turn it on. I'm like, yeah, now you'll pay me to fix it, right? Anyways, so I go into the AT&T store, and there's a huge line in front of me, which is fine. You know, it's an open job fair, whatever. They're seeing everybody, fine. I have my resume ready with all of my years of experience and things. And the guy interviews me, and he's a very personable person, and I'm being very personable to him. And he asked me, well, "What's your experience with cell phones?" And I told him the story about. I basically told him my background with cell phones. I said I have 15 years of iPhone experience. I've been studying. I keep up to date with what's going on from Apple's end, so that I keep up to date with what's coming to the iPhones and the iPads and stuff. And I don't have too much Android experience because, let's be honest, that I don't typically deal with Androids in my daily basis. But I have some Android experience. I know how Androids function, and I can learn more about them with more practice over time. And then I told him, and he's like, "Well, can you give me an example of your work?" And I told him the story that I've told you guys about the time when I got 4 Verizon iPhones working. I'm sorry, 2 Verizon iPhones and 2 Android phones activated and with no data loss on any of the machines on Christmas Eve for 4 people. I said that it was Christmas Eve, and my girlfriend's family, my now fiance's family, had bought all new phones, which is fine. You know, it was Christmas present. You know, they wanted new phones. That's fine. They got the phones they were happy with, but they needed the phones activated, which they didn't know how to do. They needed the data transferred on the phones, and they didn't know how to do that because a lot of them had lots of important data on their previous phones, and this was before Apple allowed direct transfer from phone to phone or device to device. You had to load backups back then, and I knew how to do that. I had years of experience in doing that. And one of the phones refused to accept the activation, so I had to troubleshoot that, but I did get it resolved on Christmas Eve, saving Christmas basically for my fiance's sister. And I told that story, and again, if you want to see that story specifically, that's on my YouTube channel already. I won't go into it again. I told the story already. You can look it up. I think I called it when, the time I saved, I activated 4 iPhones in one night, or 4 smartphones in one night. But it's in the Tales from IT playlist. And he's like, "Okay, this is what I need you to do." And he's just talking to me like he's completely zoned me out at this point. Like, he's already knowing that he's going to reject my application for some reason. He's talking to me like this. And he says, "Okay, this is what I need you to do. I need you to leave here, and I need you to get online, and I need you to submit your resume digitally now." I guess I was assuming that this guy would, if he liked me, he would have just offered me a job right there on the spot. But okay, I'll play this game. So he says, "I need you to submit your information electronically with your resume. And there's going to be a website or something. It's going to ask you a bunch of questions, 10 questions or something. Please answer the questions, and we'll get back to you with our answer quickly." They're like, "Okay." So I go on AT&T's website, I submit my resume again. I mention on the submission, and there was a spot for it. Did you go to the job fair? That sort of thing. And I mentioned that. I put down my name so they know who I was. And they asked me 10 completely irrelevant questions. Like, not even joking. It's like just 10 really stupid freaking questions. Like, I've been asked questions that are really stupid and irrelevant, but not in jobs. Not for a job. I would have assumed that they would have asked me, I felt like, and I'm not even kidding about this, I felt like I was in the opening scene of Blade Runner, and I was the replicant being asked a question about the tortoise. Who writes this crap? Okay, AT&T, if you're watching this, I doubt you are, but whoever wrote that website is an idiot. Fire them. If you paid somebody to write that website and write those questions, ask for your money back. So they asked 10 questions, 9 of which were completely irrelevant. One question, which was completely irrelevant to AT&T job, was, do you know how to set up a home network, a wireless home network? Of which I said yes, of course. Which isn't relevant to the AT&T job because these are cell phones. And I hit submit. I got my rejection in about 20 minutes. I got an email back from AT&T saying, sorry, we're not interested in you. Wish you well in your future employment affairs. So that was a complete waste of my afternoon. I had to tell my mother, who thought I was a shoo-in for this job. She was going on and on about how this was a job I was going to get and it was going to give me all these benefits and yada, yada, yada. To say nothing of probably how badly these guys working for AT&T probably have it, when it comes to pay and hours and stuff. I didn't get the job. And then, of course, the immediate knee-jerk reaction from the parents are, oh, you didn't get the job because you're lazy. You didn't want the job. And you can't explain to the people, because again, they don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. Like the story I just told you, in the way that I just told you, my parents lack the intelligence to even comprehend. They don't understand why those questions were irrelevant. I answered them. I just don't know. And this story I could probably repeat hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times with multiple different stories. I've said them all, and it's gotten me nowhere. And so this is a bit of a like a warning to you guys, I guess, and a bit of an encouragement also. Because while I'm trying to tell you that these stories certainly won't get you anywhere for employment, because apparently employers, I don't know what, maybe they're literally just like going like with a Ouija board in the back. I don't know how HR really deals with this sort of thing. Maybe they're in the back with like a blindfold and a Ouija board or something, like, is this person, it's like with a resume, like with a candle burning on top of the resume, or I don't know. But whatever it is, it's clearly not working, because it's not like they're hiring competent people for most jobs. I mean, I was in Best Buy yesterday trying to pick up a copy of Control on PlayStation 4. And at first the guy was so stupid, he literally tried to give me a PS4 controller. And then when that didn't work, before he tried to do that, he was like, oh, I almost gave you a controller. Hold on a second. He handed me the wrong copy of Control. And I had to wait another 20 or 30 minutes in Best Buy so that they actually found the proper copy that I had pre-ordered months earlier, which they, for some reason, didn't think to hold or put on hold before the day started, I guess. I don't know. So it's not like whatever it is that these HR companies are doing is actually competent in any way. Because I can tell you this right now, most companies are still hiring complete idiots. But my warning to you guys is that there will be opportunities for you guys, and you can make your own decisions. You can make your own, you know what's best for you. And if you feel what you're doing is the right direction, don't let anybody tell you that you're not doing the right thing.